You're crazy. They gave her a teddy bear. So silly. Okay. So we just woke up. We're at a hotel. Wow. Last night was so sad. I think I'm going to explain everything when I get home because it's just probably gonna take a while, and like just like how I feel about everything that happened. I hardly had any sleep last night, so and she's obviously hungry. But yeah, we're gonna talk about when we get home. Just want you to know that she's okay. This is the next day. It's next morning. So yeah. Okay, so this is like not where I wanted to film this, and it's like 8:30 at night, but I'm getting this done because I have to share this. What you just saw, that was all I was able to film within the moment. I was very scared, and I knew I wanted to remember this experience for a reason. And so when we were in the ambulance, I just filmed like a few seconds, 30 seconds of it, because I wanted Anthem to see this one day, and I wanted me to just have it as a memory, as a learning experience, and also as just a thankfulness to God for just protecting us. So first things first, I'm gonna tell you guys the story of like moment by moment what happened, because people are like, what happened? Like, why did she stop breathing? Why did you go unconscious? So let me just back up the train. We went to LA to visit Katie and them, and it was Friday night on the 8th. So Friday night on the 8th, my battery's about to die, hold on. Okay, just changed out the battery. We were headed home from LA, and well, we were on our way. We were at the airport, and I got there super early because I just like having time to eat and feed her before we get on the plane, and I don't like to feel rushed. So we were just sitting at one of the little like open areas where there's like tables and stuff to like eat and stuff, but it wasn't like a restaurant. It was like in the middle of the airport kind of. We were sitting there, and I went and grabbed me a salad. So I was just eating the salad. I had FaceTimed my mom. Anthem was like standing up on the like bench area, like where I was holding her, like it had a back to it. So she's like standing up and like playing, and I'm playing with her. Totally fine. She had been fine all week, like never had any symptoms of anything being wrong. And then I hang up with my mom, I finish eating my salad, and I'm just like holding her, and she's like standing up, and then she all of a sudden like fusses for a second, and I knew she was hungry and tired, so I'm like, okay, let me like figure out what's going on. So I was like, it's okay. And so like I stand up with her, she was like fussing, and I was just gonna try to like, you know, soothe her really quick. And so I stand up with her, and she just lets out the loudest scream, and it was just like a horrifying loud scream, and her whole body like tensed up really tight, and it was like this long scream. And I was like, what is going on? Like, it just kind of scared me, because I was like, what just happened? Like, what? I didn't do anything to you, like why is she freaking out? And then all of a sudden she does it again, and I'm standing up with her. I'm like, okay, let me just try to feed her. So I sit down, and like by the time I pull my shirt down to go and feed her, her eyes were closed, and she was like not moving. And so I was like, and I'm by myself, by the way, I was by myself traveling with her. And so I'm like looking down, and I'm like, man, like there's no way she fell asleep that quickly. And I'm just like looking at her, she wasn't like waking up, and I was like, you want to eat, Anthem? And she like wasn't doing anything, and I was like, that's really strange. So there's no way she's sleeping that fast. I was like, it's really weird. So then like I kind of like put her on my shoulder, and then I noticed when I put her on my shoulder, she felt really like floppy and heavy. And I was like, normally she like hugs me, and like she's, you know, so it's just like really awkward. It felt like something was wrong. And so then I stood up with her, and I was like kind of rocking her, and I was like, and so then I was like, something's wrong. So I sat back down, and I like pulled her away from my shoulder, and I'm just like looking at her face, and she like, eyes were closed, her like mouth was like that, it was like kind of open, and I'm lip staring at her. And she's a mixed baby, so she's like really dark skin, and I'm looking at her face, and her face looks so white and so pale, and I'm just like, what is wrong with, like, she looks weird. And then by the time I look at her face, then I go to look at her lips, and her lips, I noticed, were like this bluish, purpley pale color. And I'm like, I know her lips are like this color naturally. And so when I saw her lips, I looked around, and in that moment, I knew I needed help so fast. And so I look over and I see these 2 ladies sitting down. There's like a ton of people, but all I saw were these 2 ladies sitting down, and they had these like name tags, like maybe they worked at the airport. And so I looked over and I just stared at them, and they're like, because I was in the middle of the airport at that point and holding her, and they're like, is something wrong? I was like, I need help, call 911, my baby. And I just kept saying, my baby. And so they jump up and they run, and they go get people, and as they go get people, I like go to sit down with her, and I pull her away from me again, and I'm like, Anthem, wake up, and I'm like doing this, and she like, nothing. There was no response. She was white, she was blue, like nothing. And then I stood up with her, and then somebody's like, is she breathing? Somebody just yelled, is she breathing? And so I looked, and at that time I saw her chest move like very, very slowly. And then like right after that happened, a bunch of random doctors and nurses came running just from like the airport, like people were boarding, about to board, whatever. So they just came running because they heard what happened. So I have to hurry because she's awake. So this like old man, he's like a doctor, he came running and he grabbed her from me because like obviously I couldn't do anything. So he grabbed her, he was standing up with her, and she was still unconscious, and it had only been like 30 seconds to a minute, but she was breathing at that point, we knew. He stood up with her and he was like, did she choke? Did she choke? It's like, no, she had no food, like nothing. And so then he lays her down on the bench next to me, and she was still unconscious. Her color was kind of coming back, and then another doctor ran up, and she was an actual pediatrician. So she came up and she's like, oh my God, her coloring is like whatever. She's like, did she choke? And she's like opening her cheeks, and she's like, there's no food. I was like, yeah, she didn't choke. And so then Anthem on the bench opens her eyes and then closes them again. And so like we knew she was like alive. And then so she picked her up and sat her on her lap, and by the time she did that, Anthem like opened her eyes, and then she was like kind of like looking around, like kind of still dazed, and then she like did like crying for me. And so then I took her from the lady, and then a few seconds later, like the lady's trying to talk to her, interact with her, and then she smiles at the lady. And so that was the story. That's exactly like word for word what I could remember what happened. Let me pause because I gotta go get her and put her back to sleep, but I'll be right back. She's asleep again, but okay, so when she woke up, then at that point, first responders or EMS, ambulance people came, and cops were already there, but they were standing around because obviously there was like doctors on the scene. And then yeah, the paramedic came and they checked her heart and her blood pressure and all that kind of stuff, and they said everything was normal. So we were at that point, we were just like, what could it have been? There was like talk of a seizure and like stuff like this. And so they also were saying like, do you want to take her to the ER right now, or do you want to try to fly home? And the flight was 4 hours, and I'm like, you know, it's kind of scary because we don't know what just happened, and if it happened again on the flight, there's no paramedics on the flight unless there's like a random doctor who's like on the flight. So they were just like talking about that. And then one of them said, we actually have to call these doctors and they have to give you approval for her to fly. So you're gonna have to end up going to the ER at LA. So I really didn't have a choice. I couldn't fly home. We had to stay another night. And so they got me a ticket for the next morning, and we went into the ambulance and drove to the nearest hospital, which was UCLA, Ronald Reagan Hospital, which was amazing. And we were on our way there, and at that point she was completely normal. They checked her blood sugar and everything in the truck, and everything was good. And then they brought us in, they did testing, they did EKG, they tested her blood pressure and all of that again. Everything looked normal. They monitored her for like 2 hours. And so first off, thank you, Katie, my cousin, for literally being there she met me at the hospital. Like, I was so scared. I literally was by myself, had nobody, and so I called her and I was like, told her what happened, and she was there within like 20 minutes. So she literally was with me the whole time. So thank you so much, because I was so scared and so alone, and I knew like nobody. So it was just the scariest thing ever. So yeah, so we stayed there. They did all this tests, said nothing was wrong. They diagnosed it as like a bruit, which is basically like they couldn't find anything wrong, so they don't know what caused it. But they did suggest we go to our doctor when we get home. So yes, discharged us, and we went to a hotel near LAX airport, stayed there overnight, me and Anthem, and then we woke up the next morning and went home. And literally today is Monday the 11th, and she has been fine ever since. So she's had no issues at all. We got home, we were really tired, jet lagged, so we like rested a lot, slept a lot. But yeah, that's pretty much the story. I went to the doctor this morning with her, or this afternoon, and they checked everything, checked her heart. I told her pediatrician word for word what happened, what I could remember, like everything. And she is saying that she doesn't think it's a seizure, and she doesn't think it's a heart issue or anything like that, which those were like possibilities that it could have been. But she's like, everything looks normal. And she said that when Anthem let out her loud cry twice, that when she did that, they were so long and loud that she ran out of breath afterwards and she passed out from that scream. And so like, because she yelled so much, and it could have been she was in pain, or it could have been she was upset about something or whatever. But whatever happened, whatever made her do that, when she did it for that long period of time, it made her pass out and stop breathing. And so by the way, she says if it's a seizure, they normally don't stop breathing, they keep breathing. And there's different signs, and so they don't lose their color like that. So because she stopped breathing, that's showing that she lost oxygen and air. And so that's the diagnosis. I trust her pediatrician with what I told her and her thoughts on it. She's like, if it was my kid, this is exactly what I would diagnose. So she's like, it may happen again, it may not. It just depends on if she ever does that again. At that age, it's really hard to tell. Like, she obviously didn't pass out on purpose, but her losing her air like that, hopefully we can like teach her not to do that kind of thing. So, or for her to not get that upset to where she does pass out. So that is it. That's the story. I don't think I'm going to do any further testing unless something else looks wrong. And so the doctor kind of said the same thing. Like, if you see anything else happens with Anthem, definitely come in and let us know. But for now, we feel safe. I feel at peace. I'm praying so hard that it never happens again, because it was the scariest thing that ever happened to us, ever, ever, ever. And to see your child not breathing and white and blue, like, I mean, it's horrible. It's horrible. Like, I literally thought she was done. Like, I thought she was done. I thought she was dead. I was like, I mean, I told one of the doctors who ran up, don't let my baby die. Like, don't let her die. Like, it was the most traumatic thing. And I'm still in shock from it. Like, I still wake up and I'm just like, how did that even happen? Like, it was so random. So that is it. I just want to tell people out there, hug your babies, hug your babies, hug your parents, hug your kids, hug everybody, because life is so, so short. And that really was a wake-up call to just really appreciate Anthem and, you know, raise her right. And it's just, it was so sad. It was so sad. And poor baby, like, she did not want to be at that hospital. She was just not having it. So it was definitely a traumatic experience for both of us. And I do find that since then, she's been very clingy to me. She's normally very clingy to me, but even so, she's like, getting home, she's very like weird about me walking away. Like, if I put her down, she's like automatically upset, when before we went on the trip, she would play by herself all the time. So she's very weird about me like being away from her now. And I don't know if that was because of the experience or the ER experience, you know, for a baby like that, that's really traumatic. So we're working through it, but I just wanted to share this because I know so many people are asking me the whole story. So this is the whole story, so I don't have to say it a million times. So watch this video if you want to know the story. I hope you learned something from this, and just always watch your kids. And thank God I was next to her. Thank God I was holding her, because if she would have been like in her seat or something, I don't know if she would have like woken up on her own like that. We didn't have to do CPR, thank God. So, but we definitely did wake her up. So yeah, so scary, but I'm so glad to be home. I am so glad to be home, and with Thurman, like, it's so good that he got to see her, right? You know, when we got home, it just was like, you know, we're back together again. Like, it was just so hard to be alone with during this time. I feel at peace. But yeah, sorry, this is a long video. This is the end. This is it. So bye guys. I'm not gonna edit this. This is all gonna be like whatever I said. So sorry if I messed up, sorry if it took forever, but I just wanted to get the whole story. So love you guys so much. I'll see you in another video. I pray to God this doesn't ever happen again, and I never have to share anything like this again. So love you all, and good night.